feel fairly comfortable. We'll start with macronutrients. So there's like a plethora of things that we can talk about when it comes to nutrition. The focus of the challenge this year is macronutrients, timing, fluid intake, sleep, exercise. So we'll start with macronutrients. I'll just kind of follow along with this paper that you guys have. The first page starts with the Lifestyle Challenge 2017. So when it comes to macronutrients, is that a familiar word for you guys? Yeah, we hear it a lot. It's kind of like a buzzword nowadays. What does that mean to you? Like, what does macronutrients mean? You guys can just shout it out if you want. Energy? Yeah. Cheater. Energy, yeah. So do you know what the difference between macronutrients and micronutrients are? No? Okay. Awesome. All right. It's Sunday. So macronutrients is where we get our energy from, essentially. We eat macronutrients in a large amount. Micronutrients, we eat them in a very small amount. So macronutrients are carbohydrates, fat, protein. Micronutrients are your minerals and vitamins. So when you think about vitamins, we don't eat like a whole tub of calcium, right? We eat food that contain micronutrients, but the majority of our energy or calories come from carbs, fat, and protein. There's one other one on the board here that gives us calories. Do you guys know what it is? But it's not essential. Alcohol, yeah, that's the one. Atta girl. For some people it may be. For the challenge, it's not going to be, unfortunately. So when it comes to these, they each have different amounts of energy. So carbohydrates and protein both have 4 calories per gram. Fat has 9, so that means it's much denser. We can't eat as much of fat. And alcohol has how much, do you think? 7. Someone was here last year. 7, yeah. So it's also quite dense, right? We just won't talk about alcohol because it's not a necessary component. So I'm just going to go along here. We're going to chat about carbohydrates first. Carbohydrates is a macronutrient that we need in the most amount in our diet, and it's our body's main source of fuel. So your body uses carbohydrates the quickest, the easiest. When we are exercising, we need carbohydrates, very important. Your brain, just to function day to day, needs at least 100 grams just to function itself. So you can imagine, on a day where you maybe skipped breakfast, you didn't have like a snack or a dinner the night before, you may have fog brain at work. That's a very common thing. It's because you haven't had enough carbs. Your body's using other sources to function. So when it comes to carbohydrates, there's different foods that are in carbs. Carb is like a big umbrella term. What are some carb-based foods that you guys have heard of? When you hear carbs, yeah, pasta, anything else? Potatoes, what else? Some vegetables, yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Rice, yeah. What about fruit? Do you guys think of fruit as a carb? Yeah. Dairy, anyone? Legumes? Yeah, so it composes a lot of different foods. Now I put these 2 on the board here. So when we usually think of carbs, oftentimes it's starch, right? Like I heard pasta, potato, rice, but food sources that also have sugar also contain carbohydrates. When you think about foods that are starchier, I put the molecules down here. So sugars are just tiny little molecules, and that's how our body absorbs carbohydrates. So if we eat foods with a lot of starches, all the body does is break it down into little sugar molecules, and that's how we absorb it. So if you're eating anything that has carbohydrates in any form, at the end of the day, your body's going to break it down into sugar. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing, right? We need sugar to live, but if we overeat in sugar, fat, or protein, we will store it as fat. In North America, the most common source of overconsumption is through carbohydrates. So this will be a main focus for the challenge this year. All right, so there's different kinds, like we said. There's simple, there's complex, there's starches. This year we're going to talk about, like we did last year with the glycemic index, we're going to use that as our guideline for carbohydrates. Did you guys get the glycemic index in your package? Yeah? If anyone has it out right now, we can just quickly look at that. It looks like this. You guys remember seeing that in your package? Yeah? All right, so what we're going to focus on this year for the challenge is really focusing on the low glycemic index side. Now, what does glycemic index mean before I go forward? You guys know what that means? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like a measurement of how quickly foods with carbs spike your blood sugar. So lower glycemic index foods are better for us because it doesn't spike our blood sugar as fast, so it doesn't peak. It helps us feel fuller for longer the lower they are. And so the higher glycemic index foods are often very concentrated in sugar. They don't have a lot of fiber, not a lot of fat or protein or much to them. So it'll spike our blood sugar really quickly. We'll feel energetic and then we'll drop quickly afterwards. So we want to avoid those high ones throughout the day. We're going to be focusing on mainly low carbs throughout the day. And then during your workouts, kind of around, depending if you're doing fat loss or performance, you'll be allowed to have medium or high glycemic foods, but we'll talk about that during the guidelines section. Any questions with carbs? Is that a good overview? Yeah? Okay. There's going to be a lot of information today, so don't worry if you have questions afterwards. We can definitely go over them. All right, so the other carbohydrate, the other macronutrient we're going to talk about is fat. Fat is so delicious. We all love it, and we also need it in our diet. It's necessary. But like I said, it's more than double the amount of energy as in carbohydrate and protein, so we can't have as much, but still very essential. So there's actually two kinds of fat. There's unsaturated fat and saturated fat. Have you guys heard of those words? Yeah? What's the difference between the two, do you think? Which one would be a healthier form of fat? Unsaturated? Yeah. So the unsaturated forms of fat are actually liquid at room temperature. That's the easiest way for you to identify if it's a healthy fat. So those would be your vegetable oils, right? You've got olive oil, you've got your avocado or grapeseed oil, canola oils, those kind of things. Other saturated fat sources are oftentimes solid at room temperature. And those are often found in a lot of processed foods like baked goods. That's what makes them taste so yummy. But also some are found naturally in foods. And those would be like your dairy products, like your high-fat cheeses or really high-fat meats, bacon, lard, butter. So we're really going to focus on reducing the amount of saturated fat that you guys take in because it actually increases our cardiovascular risk, like risk for stroke and heart disease. So we're just going to try to reduce those during the challenge. Any questions when it comes to fat sources or fat food sources? Yeah.
Down to, is it basically plant-based, animal-based, or is there?
There's some in plant, actually. That's a good question. The one that is a saturated food form is coconut. And the jury's still out there on whether it's very healthy for us or not. So it's kind of right now in the middle. It is a saturated food form, but it's a plant-based form. So we do allow it in the challenge, but when it comes to fat, we always say limit your fat consumption anyway, and you guys have all your macro breakdowns. So you can still fit into your fat source. You just have to fit it within your macros. Yeah, so that's a good question.
And I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Grass-fed.
Grass-fed meat. So that wouldn't necessarily. Yeah, so that wouldn't necessarily affect the saturated fat component. It may affect other qualities like the micronutrients, like your vitamins and minerals, on what it takes in. Yeah, so foods that we're going to be focusing more for the challenge, again, we'll go through this during the guidelines, will be your leaner meats with less saturated fat. Okay. Egg fat, so egg fat is it's an animal-based fat, so it is higher in saturated fat, but a lot of like the fats from egg, they've now seen, actually the worry is more the cholesterol in the egg, and they've now seen that the cholesterol from egg or a lot of food products doesn't actually affect our cholesterol, so we don't have to worry about it too much. Yeah, eggs are also included. We'll go over that during the guideline. Okay, so the next slide here is a little bit fuzzy. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna go through that all during the food guideline portion, yeah. Okay, so stages of energy utilization. Can you guys see the graph here? It's a little bit fuzzy, so I've written it out here to be a little bit clearer. Apologize for my drawing skills. So this is basically going over how we use energy during activity. This, at this end here, is when we're at complete rest. Over here is when we're exercising to our full capacity. This line here is fat, so how much fat we use during our intensity, and this is how much carb we use. This is a percentage. So right now we're sitting down, we're resting, we're actually using more fat than carb as energy. So why shouldn't we just sit forever and we'll burn all the fat? Right? Sounds kind of backwards, right? Like if I just sit, I'm going to burn fat, but the proportion is much less than if we increased our intensity. So the reason why having various macronutrients are important, especially during high intensity exercise, thinking of carbohydrates, our carb needs go way up the higher our intensity is, and our fat proportion goes way down. And we do burn a little bit of protein, but we don't want to get into that, because if we run out of carbs, our body's going to start relying on fat, yes, but it's also going to start using your protein, your muscle stores. So that's why having adequate carbohydrates is so important, but over amount of carb will cause your body to increase its insulin. You're going to store more as fat. You're not going to use fat as energy as much. So it's good to have a really proper balance, but I like looking at this slide because it kind of goes to show why certain things are important when you're working out and what you're using. So when we're doing like a Metcon, really high intensity, we're kind of up in this upper range, right? If you're walking, you might be somewhere here. Right now, we're kind of over here, right? Does that make sense? Yeah? That's important. Any questions on that? You guys are so quiet today. All right, flip the page. We'll just quickly go over protein. Protein's favorite, it's probably the favorite macronutrient, right? It's Rachel's favorite. Maybe carb? Me too. Yeah. So protein is our third macronutrient that we're going to focus on. There are different kinds of protein. So protein is made up of amino acids. Again, that's a common term that we hear. There are 20 amino acids out there, and they combine in all different ways to make proteins. There are different kinds of proteins. There's complete protein and incomplete proteins. And it's really helpful during your meals and throughout the day to focus on getting complete proteins, but we can still have incomplete. So what do you think the difference is between the two? Any idea? Contains all the amino acids, so it contains all the essential amino acids, absolutely. Our body can only make a certain amount of them, but 11 amino acids, 9 of them are essential, meaning we have to get them from our diet. So complete proteins come from animal-based foods again, so you've got your meats, fish, dairy, egg. Those are very important to include. If you're following a vegetarian or vegan lifestyle, most of those do contain incomplete proteins. Doesn't mean they're bad, it just means you have to combine them with various foods to get a complete protein. I don't know if you guys have heard of the rice and beans. If you have rice and beans together, it makes complete protein. So they're both vegetarian sources. So those are it just goes to show that, if you're having a variety of food, you will get a good complement of protein. But if you are consistently not eating complete proteins, you may be lacking on some of those amino acids, okay? So how does protein support your workout? Why do we need protein? You think about it. What's the main function of it? Yeah, rebuild your muscles, absolutely. Anything else? You got your cheat sheet? We do use it for fuel, a little bit of fuel, absolutely, and it's satisfying. Fat and protein are very satisfying macronutrients, so if you just ate carbs, say like you just sat down and ate potatoes, you'd probably enjoy them, but you may not feel as satisfied if you hadn't included a fat source or a protein source. So really important to include all of these in your meal, and we'll talk about that during the guideline breakdown. Okay, so when it comes to this, I hope now we have a good understanding of why we need all three of these. And I had a slide here, just a big misconception. A lot of people think that all you need is like protein, protein, protein. This will get me strong, it'll get me jacked, all these things. We need a good complement of all of them. There's so much evidence to show that we absolutely need carbohydrates before our workout, after our workout, to supply the right amount of energy to get us those gains. We also need protein to help rebuild the muscles, and we need some fat for that energy and for the other functions that it's used for, okay? So for the challenge, we're not eliminating any of these. Everyone got their own spread, right? If you guys haven't gotten your percentages, that'll be coming out this week, right, Rach?
By tonight, if you guys send your emails, all your coaches should have sent your stuff by tonight.
Okay. All right, so the basics, what we're gonna focus on for the challenge really is just focusing on whole foods in their most complete form. So if it comes from the ground, if it comes from a mother, that's the most natural form of food that we're really gonna try to encourage, right? Whole, unrefined grains, low-fat dairy, lean meats, rich vegetables that are not processed. We've got, fruits in there. No alcohol, unfortunately. Doesn't mean you can't have, we'll go over the point system, but alcohol is not part of the challenge. Focusing on plenty of water, choosing healthier cooking options. So we're gonna work on, choosing other ways that are leaner, that are a bit healthier, batch cooking options that can help you guys during the challenge. and focusing on healthier natural fat sources. So getting away from some of those really processed fat sources and adding in healthier choices for you guys. Okay, so for those of you who decided if you wanted to do fat loss or performance, you both were given different guidelines that were sent to you. So the fat loss individuals, the primary reason why we sent you guys a different one is because your macronutrient breakdowns that you were given are slightly different. Your carbs are a little bit less and your proteins a little bit more. And if you were going for a weight loss, your calories were at a deficit, right? We didn't want to drastically cut your calories because that can alter your metabolic rate, which is really dangerous. It's just basically a slight decrease in your calorie needs. So over the 6 weeks, you'll see changes, right? We don't want to see a 20-pound weight loss in 2 weeks. That's really concerning. Over the course of 6 weeks, hopefully you'll see a result, but it won't be a drastic result either because that's actually very unsafe. So the premise for the fat loss, like I said, it's going to be more of a moderate carbohydrate, moderate protein, moderate fat, kind of a 40-30-30 split. The reason being for that, like I was saying with the carbs, if you overeat in carbs, your insulin level goes up. You don't process fat as effectively because your body's trying to break down the carbohydrates. And so in that way, you're not really using fat as energy as well if you had not had as many carbs. We're also going to focus on really a lot of vegetable intake, so a lot of fiber and a lot of water. And again, reducing alcohol intake. How do you guys think alcohol affects weight loss? Spike your sugar, okay? Empty calories, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So when you... Yeah, exactly. So when you're drinking, your body's like, okay, hold the phone. I need to break down this alcohol before anything else. So when we're sitting down and relaxing and breaking down quite a bit of fat, that whole process stops, right? It stops because your body wants to break down the alcohol. So you actually stop breaking down fat like you normally would. It also affects your testosterone levels, which can also impact your fat breakdown. So that's one of the big reasons why we don't include it. It can really alter your fat breakdown, okay? Now for the muscle gain or performance side of things, if you're going for weight gain, your calorie needs have gone up, so good for you guys. Don't tell the fat loss or weight loss people. We heard that a lot last year. I just can't seem to eat enough. Don't say that out loud, okay? We're also really focusing on giving you guys enough carbohydrates and protein for your workouts. You're going to be asked to eat around your workout a little bit more maybe than you were used to, and the timing of your food. So making sure you're eating, every 3 to 4 hours will be really crucial for you guys to prevent muscle breakdown, to keep you guys satisfied, to give you enough energy during your workout. So the guidelines are a little bit different based on that, and everyone got their own individual numbers, okay? All right.
You guys kind of see this?
Sort of. Did you guys open up your spreadsheets yet? Yeah?
Okay, so this is going to be basically the way we're going to be tracking points and our food. So the way that this spreadsheet has worked, we have inputted all the information that you guys gave us on the online form, put it into the spreadsheet. Depending on whether you're for fat loss or performance, it's going to be a bit different. So from all that, the first slide or the first page is going to be your daily macro breakdown. So you have your calories and the grams of carbs, protein, and fat. So this is the first slide. Challenge points. So the points available are for your nutrition. We have 5 points available, 3 points available, and 0 points available. So for the 5 points, you've hit all your okay. At 3 points, you hit all of your macros, but you did not follow your food guidelines or your portion size chart. So basically, you ate within your macronutrient breakdown. You got all your carbs, you got all your fat, you got all your protein, but the sources weren't 100% clean. Okay? 0 points. You didn't follow the breakdown, and you had a drink. 1 drink counts as 0, unfortunately.
So please don't take that as in, oh, I had one, now everything's off the
Yeah.
for yourself. If you had one, so what, right? Get back on it.
Just have one and have your vitamins, your sleep,
you can still get points for that day. So there's no negative points associated with this challenge this year. So you can, so just think of it down the line. If you go on a bender for a day and you're drinking 24 beers, how are you going to feel the next day? Alcohol really affects your body composition. It's 6 weeks and your fat metabolism. Yeah. So think about it as a long-term thing. Don't think of it as us punishing you. We want you guys to see the most results possible over these next 6 weeks, and going binge drinking every weekend isn't going to be ideal in seeing the results that you want. You're obviously here for a reason. So those are for the nutrition component. You can earn bonus points. So there are 5 bonus points available. On the spreadsheet that you were given, we forgot to put in the water, so the fluid intake, but it is in the guideline. So you can have up to 5 bonus points. So first bonus point, you take an omega-3 or a vitamin D supplement. I got a question where it's like, if you take one, do you get half a point? No. Like if you take both, you get 1 point. If you take only one, 0 points. Just make it simple. Okay? Pardon? For vitamin D, do you know that? It's like, yeah.
It'll be on the guidelines, yeah.
Sounds like a lot. There's pill form, and there's droplets as well. It's really easy. Just take it with your water, or put on your food. Any more questions? So, okay. Next point available is for your sleep. We want to focus on sleep because it really aids in recovery. So you'll get 1 bonus point for 7+ hours of sleep. Along with recovery, because this is a whole lifestyle challenge, we are adding a bonus point for 15 minutes of mobility work. So mobility work doesn't mean the cool down, okay? You have to do mobility work that's extra, that goes beyond the cool down. This is to attack your movement restrictions. So we wanna, if you have any movement restrictions, like you have really tight shoulders, overhead squatting is very difficult for you, ask your coach, and we'll give you mobility drills for you to do throughout the challenge. So hopefully if you guys do them for 15 minutes a day after you work out, you will see a noticeable change. Rolling out on the foam roller for 2 minutes after doesn't really help that much. You have to go a little deeper if you want to make actual changes. Okay? No. So if you're watching TV, grab a lacrosse ball, get on a foam roller, do an extra 15 minutes. Does that help? Dan?
Does the 7+ hours of sleep have to be in a row?
Yes. Yes, not 7 naps. Has to be in a row. Good question. Anyone else? Okay. Another point is available for your fluids. So males, you have to drink 12 cups, which is 3 liters. Women, 9 cups, 2.2 liters. I'll put that extra on the Facebook group, but I'll get to that later. So yeah, tea and coffee does count, but I'm not suggesting drink all your fluids in coffee. It's really easy to do that, but don't do that. In a bit. And our last bonus point available is 1 hour physical activity. So it doesn't have to be a CrossFit class. If you guys like to run, bike, swim, whatever, outside of the gym, that does count as well. But a CrossFit class obviously counts. Cool? All right, those are the bonus points. So where you go and track all of your nutritional components will be, if you look on the bottom tabs, there's week 1 to 6. So each week, you guys are going to fill this in. So there's a carryover. So from your from the first tab into this one, your calories of your carbs, protein, and fat show up on the top left-hand corner. And as you start inputting information down, it will tick off, so there's a remaining total. So it'll help. This can be kind of annoying to carry on throughout the whole day, so we'll talk about fitness trackers, some apps that you can use to make this a little easier. You do need to have these spreadsheets filled out every single time you check in with a coach, just so we can stay on top of giving you guys full points, as well as it gives us a little look into what you're actually eating throughout the day. And it shows us that you are taking the time in counting your macros and preparing your meals. So under the food portion, just see what the app says. You put in your food. So your eggs has X amount of calories, X amount of protein, fat, carbs, and it'll take the remaining, and then it'll go into your total.
I don't know if we'll talk about this or not, but I put it on your Google Drive, and then there's an app for your phone that you download, and you can save it to Google Drive. So
Oh my God. Okay. Okay. We can look into that. Okay. I'm not very techie, so you're gonna have to show me that. Just send me your spreadsheet, please. Okay. Google Drives confuse me. They probably shouldn't, but they do. You say Google Drive, and I'm like, I am on Google Drive? I didn't open this. I had nothing to do with this. Did I? No. No, I have nothing to do with this. I just hope I'm explaining this properly. So, save this and then send it to your coach. Or if you understand this Google Drive business between you and your coach, talk to them about it, and you can work out something. If I'm your coach, you know where I stand. Just save it and send it. Print it out. I like things printed.
are you going to talk about apps like the MyFitnessPal
Yeah.
and stuff?
Yeah.
We'll do that kind of towards the end.
Setting yourself up for success and stuff. We'll get into that. Right. Yeah. So what I think I will be talking about that, just expectations throughout the challenge. Just a couple more things on the challenge guidelines and components. If you guys are in it to win it, I received pretty much everybody's before and after photos. Sorry if that was very awkward for you. I will not be sharing them with anybody without your consent. So changes in before and after photos. The reason why we do this is because muscle weighs different than fat. Muscle weighs different than fat. Does that make sense? Okay. So it's easy, for us to look at the scale and get really upset over no change in weight, but your pants are fitting a lot better. So we'd like to see the difference in before and after photos, just to see some body composition changes. It doesn't just matter on the scale as well. And we have test workouts coming up. So next week, or starting tomorrow, so this whole week we have test workouts for you guys to complete. There are different, what's the word I'm looking for? There's 3 different workouts, and they're gonna test different energy systems. Yay! Test different muscles. So we only had one test workout in the past, and that seemed to favor some athletes. So this one will give us kind of a wider range to let more athletes and see where you are with your different energy systems. Okay, so those are the challenge guidelines, and that's pretty much what it's made up of. Yeah.
All right, so if you guys have your lifestyle challenge packets with you, you can follow along. I'm just going to go to page page 6. Yeah, page 6 and 7 are the nutrition guidelines. So this goes over kind of the what's allowed, what's not allowed. So for the protein choices, we're really focusing on those lean meats, right? So skinless, boneless chicken, turkey, lean or extra lean pork, beef, lamb. So when you're in the grocery store, you want to look for that extra lean or lean version for those red meat options. Fish is obviously allowed. Salmon, halibut, canned tuna or canned salmon in water. And I'll go over that quickly with some labels. Dairy products, if you eat dairy products, if you don't eat dairy products, it's just up to you, right? These are just guidelines. All these foods you don't have to eat, they're just there for your choice. Dairy, so we're looking for lower fat dairy products. So cottage cheese, if you eat that, under 2%. Whey protein powder is fine. Anytime you're looking for cheese, look for the M.F on the label. And if it's under 20%, then that's a cheese that's allowed. And we'll send that as part of like the Facebook group. We'll kind of take a picture on what to look for. Greek yogurt, plain, or any yogurt if it's plain, because if it has a sweetener in it, it's got a lot of processed sugar, and that's not part of the challenge. So as long as it's under 2% fat, that's fine. Vegetarian sources, so legumes, soy, eggs, nuts. Nuts and seeds are a fat and sort of protein you'll see when you're searching on your apps. And then limiting no more than 2 times per week total. Red meats with a lot of marbling, so just like a regular, T-bone steak with a lot of fat in there. Processed cured meats like deli meats and bacon. So you can still have them, it's just you want to limit them because they're going to hinder with your goals. And organ meats for whoever likes some liver and kidney. We're going to limit those as well. I don't think that'll be a very popular item. Carbohydrates. Yeah. It can, yeah. It just has like quite a bit of cholesterol and can have some fat, so we just want to limit, yeah. But it does have a lot of like iron and stuff. It's very rich, you're right. Okay, so carbohydrate sources, whole grains of low glycemic index, you'll refer to your chart. Starchy vegetables, again, of low glycemic index, and fruit on your chart on the glycemic index, as well as milks. And then your fats, the ones that are allowed are your vegetable oils, like we said, olive oils, avocado, nuts, and seeds. You want to avoid adding any lard or butter. Like I said, bacon is still kind of in that category as well. You just want to avoid those. So there's some hints at the bottom to follow a healthy meal, and I'll go over that on another page on what your meals should look like. So if you flip over to the guidelines, they're different for fat and performance. The fluid's the same. Meal timing, we're saying we really encourage you to try to eat regularly throughout the day, 3 to 4 hours, every 3 to 4 hours. If you're someone who is given a really low, like under 1,500 calories per day, you may find that you can't eat every 3 to 4 hours, and it might be every 4 to 5. That's okay because your needs are a little bit less than someone who needs 3,000 calories. Okay, so just these are guidelines, right? They're not built for every single person. Breakfast, huge. We're going to be encouraging you guys to have breakfast, so eating within the first hour of waking up. If you guys do a morning class and you're doing the fat loss section, you don't have to have breakfast in the morning. You can work out on a fasted state, but you do have to eat right afterwards. Yeah, if you're doing performance, then you would have something, a carbohydrate source in the morning, right? It could be like a banana, then you work out, and then you have your post-workout stuff. Yeah, but for fat loss, you don't eat before you work out. Okay, so you're working out on a fasted state in the morning. Pre-workout and post-workout guidelines. So for those that are doing performance, you're encouraged to have a snack beforehand with carbohydrate and protein. If you're doing fat loss, you don't have to, but like I said, if you're someone whose needs are a little bit higher, you may find that you just have to add a little snack in, and that's okay. You just don't want to have a high fat snack before your workout. That's not going to help you out. Like I said, like a carb protein mix is really helpful. Okay, so like a piece of fruit and a slice of cheese is totally fine, but you don't just want to like eat a whole avocado and then work out. That's not going to help you. Okay, and then there's post-workout guidelines for you guys. When you work out, you want to eat a source of carb and protein within an hour of working out. It doesn't have to be a protein powder. If you have your meal right after, that's perfectly fine. But that's part of the guidelines. So if you aren't hitting that, post-workout guideline, then you wouldn't get your 5 points as an example. Okay, so these are all the guidelines that you have to follow. Micronutrients like we talked about, so if you avoid dairy or its alternatives and fish and seafood, then you definitely should supplement with the omega-3 or vitamin D supplement, and you can get that extra point whether you eat them or not and you're supplementing. Okay, there's a really high threshold for safety with these 2 supplements, so don't feel nervous about that. Things to avoid, so things that should be avoided that are high in calories and nutrient deficient. So they would take a big chunk of your macros without offering much benefit. So any kind of white refined carb, like baked goods, anything that uses a lot of like white flour, refined sugar, that is not allowed for the carbs. Foods high in the glycemic index, unless you're on the performance side, you can have that right after your workout. Juices, sports drinks, pops, alcohol, like we said, high fat, processed dairy products like ice cream, sweetened yogurt, high-fat cheeses, any things with added sugar, like things with added table sugar. And then high-sodium foods like canned soups, packaged noodles, prepackaged salads that are very high in sodium, those kind of things. Okay. page 10 for you guys. Please take a look at this, really important, especially when you're traveling or eating out. This is a portion size guideline. You're gonna get very familiar with kind of seeing what a cup of food looks like, half a cup of food. And these are some good eyeballing ways to figure out like what food portions look like. When you're thinking of your plate, you wanna aim for half of your plate of veggies, and that's non-starchy veggies, right? So not potato, squash, corn, that doesn't count on that side. A quarter protein and a quarter starch. That's a really good way if you're out to know, you know what, I'm pretty well hitting my macros in that sense. And then there's basic guideline portion sizes here. So a cup looks like about the size of a baseball or the size of your fist. Half a cup is the size of a light bulb, it says here. 2 tablespoons is the size of a golf ball. So when you're home and you're starting to kind of make meals and cooking, just start eyeballing things. So say if you have oats in the morning, just measure them out and see what that looks like on your plate. So when you're out and you know you're in a situation, you can better estimate what you're eating.
For things that didn't go very well, or you're feeling maybe very hungry, or you're feeling overly stuffed, those can be kind of normal things that you experience within the first week or so. But the point of that spreadsheet, if you guys fill it out properly, it'll help the coach see what you eat throughout the week and at certain times for meals to see where we can help you be more successful with this challenge. If your carbs were way off and you didn't eat them right after a workout, you're probably your recovery's not gonna be as good. So fill that out, send it to your coach. You'll have a full day to check in with them. And that's also a good point of being accountable. It'll help you guys out, take advantage of it, because throughout the 6 weeks, it's not gonna be the easiest thing. So the more support, the better, and take advantage of it. Another thing we have added is the Facebook group. So there are no teams this year, you just have a coach. This is your person that you can always contact, but everyone's gonna be a part of the same Facebook group. So if you ever have questions or tips or tricks on meal prep or just things you've been finding throughout the challenge, post it there. Post any questions so that everyone can kind of see the answers that we can provide, and everyone's gonna be in the same boat there for support and everything. So when we break out into our groups, we're gonna add you guys all to the Facebook group, and if anything else changes throughout the challenge or documents that need to be posted, we'll post it there. So take advantage of that Facebook group as well. Prep week. So the next 7 days are going to be very, very important to your success as well. So by the end of tonight, you should have all of your spreadsheets, all of the packages. So read through it, and what you guys want to treat this as your first actual week. So maybe you have a lot of treats lying around the house. Try clearing out your fridge. What? Get it out. Yeah, so you want to set yourself for success. If you have treats lying around all the time, you're going to kind of always be like wondering, maybe we'll just have one. We'll just have another one.
Your recipe book, like looking through things on the Facebook site, we'll be posting recipes, you know, get yourself ready.
Yeah, a big thing about this is being prepared. So has anyone ever counted macros here before or done? Yeah, and do you find that it's easier when you prepare ahead of time and you can kind of see a week in advance rather than like scrambling every single day at the salad bar? I don't know what I'm doing, right? Yeah, it's good to pinch, but what we want this challenge to do is teach you guys how to meal prep. It's hard, but it gets a lot easier the more you do it. You're gonna find little tips and you're gonna find little tricks, and batch cooking is gonna be helpful. So consult with your coach of best practices to do, but being prepared is going to really help you guys out throughout this challenge. I understand that, you know, we travel a lot and we can't always be perfect, but the more prepared we are, the easier this is going to be. So some tools that you guys might want to get: food scale, a body weight scale, measuring tape, and a tracking app, or use a tracking website.